On the hot summer day of August 2nd, 216 BC, over 80,000 Roman and over 50,000 Carthaginian soldiers gathered on the plains of Cannae, near the eastern coast of southern Italy. This was the stage for the Battle of Cannae, a conflict that symbolizes Hannibal. This battle is one of the most studied by military historians and is considered the textbook example of a battle of annihilation by envelopment. Both sides entered the engagement, seeing it as a decisive winner-take-all contest. All Western military officers study Hannibal, alongside Alexander and Caesar. While many remember his courage in crossing the Alps, the true reason soldiers revere him is his outstanding tactical and strategic genius. The background to the Battle of Cannae was Rome's fatal arrogance. Growing impatient with the attrition strategy of the dictator Fabius Maximus, and spurred on by the hardliner Terentius Varro, Rome mobilized an army of 80,000, a force unprecedented in its history. The Roman army relied solely on its numerical superiority and a simple, brute force human wave tactic. But war is not a game. An army requires maneuver training, and a battle is won by troops who have practiced and coordinated with each other, not just by words. With 70,000 infantry deployed, this was the first time Rome had ever committed so many foot soldiers to a single battlefield. In other words, the commanders were facing a situation they had never encountered, forcing them to opt for a simple push-forward strategy. While Hannibal's army was a well-oiled machine, seasoned by countless battles, Rome was essentially throwing a massive, uncoordinated lump of dough at them. This was a critical mistake that not only failed to leverage their numerical advantage, but also destroyed what little teamwork they had. The Roman army crossed the river and set up camp on the plain of Cannae, as the river was essential. The Romans' simplistic tactics were based on another premise: to deny space to the Carthaginian cavalry. They packed their infantry tightly and positioned their own cavalry in the narrow space by the river, attempting to use the terrain to restrict the movement of Carthage's horsemen. The Roman army placed its 8 legions of infantry in a deep, tightly packed formation in the center. This dense arrangement was a strategy often used by poorly trained armies lacking confidence. Roman cavalry was weak. They positioned 1,000 horsemen between the infantry and the river, with 4,800 allied cavalry on the opposite flank. Hannibal's Carthaginian army had nearly half the infantry of the Romans, but held overwhelming superiority in cavalry. Left-wing cavalry. Under the command of Hasdrubal, 6,000 heavy cavalry were positioned. This was a formidable, well-armored, and well-equipped force. Right-wing cavalry. 4,000 Numidian light cavalry were deployed, tasked with buying time with their exceptional mobility, riding without saddles or bridles. Center infantry. The lowest quality infantry was placed at the forefront, while at the ends, hidden behind them, were 10,000 of Hannibal's most trusted and elite African infantry. Tactical formation. The central infantry line was arranged in a convex shape, bulging forward towards the enemy. The battle began with the Carthaginian heavy cavalry charging the Roman right-wing cavalry. A melee ensued in the narrow space, much like an infantry battle, and the heavy cavalry quickly crushed the Roman horsemen. On the opposite flank, the Numidian light cavalry used hit-and-run tactics to buy precious time. Drunk on their apparent success, the Roman legions pushed forward, driving back the Carthaginian center. This caused Hannibal's line to bend into a reverse crescent shape. Due to the paradox of the flat terrain, Their mistake lay in this very terrain. We often mistakenly assume that visibility is good on flat ground, but in reality, it can be more obscured than on a sloped hill. On a plain, the field of view is limited. The Roman soldiers were disoriented, unaware of how the battle was truly unfolding. As the Romans crowded excessively into the center, their effectiveness plummeted, and they became hopelessly entangled. More soldiers were caught in the crush than were actually fighting at the front. It is recorded that the formation was so dense that some soldiers didn't even have room to draw their swords. Pushing forward with brute force to break the center, they instinctively bunched up as the flanks began to close in. At that moment, Hannibal's elite African infantry, hidden on both sides, attacked the Roman flanks, tightening the encirclement. Then, the heavy cavalry, having routed their Roman counterparts, returned to strike the Roman infantry from the rear, completing the envelopment. Attacked from all sides, the Roman army was eliminated layer by layer, like peeling an onion, with most of the 60,000 Roman soldiers killed. It is said that the Carthaginian soldiers became so exhausted from killing that they collapsed. After the battle, the Carthaginian cavalry did not aggressively pursue the remaining Roman forces, likely because they were utterly exhausted and preoccupied with gathering loot. It's even said that when ordered to support their comrades, they replied that they were too tired of killing and needed to collect their spoils. The Roman army suffered a catastrophic defeat, with over 50,000 of its 70,000 infantrymen killed. The decisive cause of Rome's defeat was its abandonment of tactical diversity in favor of a single simplistic plan, notably by leaving half of their most seasoned veterans, the triarii, to guard the rear camp. The Romans effectively gave up any tactical maneuverability that could have countered a cavalry charge. The simple-minded tactic of having cavalry hold the line at all costs, while throwing too many infantrymen into the fray at once, created a situation where the army could not fight effectively. This was the fundamental problem. Of course, from the Roman perspective, one might argue, what would you have done? Wasn't this the best option available to the Roman army? However, when a commander deems a choice to be the best, they must consider the outcome. If that best choice leads to the worst possible result or a major tactical and strategic blunder, it was not the best choice after all. A commander must think about tactical purpose and function, and be willing to make sacrifices to achieve what is tactically best. This is the difference between an ordinary general and a brilliant commander. Hannibal demonstrated his extraordinary field command ability by inducing the Roman army to make mistakes, over-concentrating their forces and being deceived by the limited visibility of the plain, to complete his masterpiece of envelopment and annihilation.